Yeah, we'll be burning prograde to lift the other node. And at this point, I can't sort of doom myself. There you go. So we'll just push it out a fair bit like this. We're fairly low, so this is a pretty cheap burn to do. Oh, I'm basically out of Delta V now. Never mind. I'm just going to burn retrograde after all to make it a little easier for me to rendezvous in the future. Ah. But yeah, fix that inclination. So, that's okay, because the next mission was always going to be a refueling mission. So now we have to do that. If I hadn't gone biome hopping, then we would have been fine, because I had like 1200 Delta V. We would have been okay. But yeah, you can save up to 44% of your burn by just burning prograde at like sort of one node. Your lowest node, you burn prograde to extend your orbit on the other side, make it super elliptical. Then at the highest point, which should still be aligned with either your ascending or descending node, then you burn normal or anti-normal to correct it. And then you go back down to your lowest point, burn retrograde to drop your apoapsis. You'll use less fuel than if you just tried to burn normal or anti-normal as is. So let's make our refueling ship. Bum, 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 bum. And yeah, we wouldn't find if I didn't go biome hopping. Or if I aligned my launch a little bit better. But I have a hard time lining that up properly. Especially when I'm right on the pole like that. That's really weird. Alright, so our refueling ship is going to be something that looks kind of cool. I want to make something that looks like this. We'll also throw in an RCS tank. Like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw a Terrier engine underneath that. At the top, what we're going to do is we're going to throw in our, say, the Probodobadine. Now, this one does not actually have reaction wheels, but it is light, which is nice. I guess it probably makes sense. Well, this is pretty big. You know what? Reaction wheels would have a hard time turning this anyway. We're going to use RCS to turn exclusively, which is crazy, I know. We're going to put a Clampotron on top like that. For RCS, we're going to go and put a foursome here and a foursome here. Now, I know that tank is angled, but the actual vents that come out of these things are also angled, so now all of a sudden, is it straight? I don't know, but it looks damn cool. The other thing that will look damn cool are some solar panels like this, because they'll come out at angles, and that'll look badass. So this is going to be, ideally, we want this to be full of fuel when we arrive. We'll probably use a little bit for some maneuvering, but we want this to be as full of fuel as possible. It is going to be a probe thingy, so it is going to need an antenna. I think just this kind of communitron is going to be sufficient. There we go. Throw it there, and on the opposite side, I will throw on one battery. We shouldn't need a ton of electric charge, especially if we're using RCS to do our maneuvering. So we're going to have this. This is going to be our fuel pod. I think that looks kind of awesome. No reaction wheels. No idea what that's going to be like. But I was thinking about it, and that's like what I want to do. So now what we need to do is we need to get this to space. Now, ideally, I would like to use none of this fuel, or as little as possible, to actually get me to the location. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to temporarily remove the engine from there, throw on a stack decoupler here, like that, and I'm just going to turn off the fuel crossfeed. Or actually, by default, it's off. That's true. Notice my delta V is 0. This engine is not going to use any fuel from here right now. We're not going to leave that in there for when we launch, but it means that I'm not going to be using this as part of my delta V calculation to get anywhere. So, I don't know why I want this to be my shape, but I do. So, I'm going to put a stack decoupler in there. Then we're going to get an actual stage that's going to get us... this is going to be basically the thing that leaves Kerbal plus most of the maneuvers around the moon. So we're going to do that and then throw a Poodle engine on there. So this is 2,000 delta V. Again, only the bottom part is counting into our delta V calculations right now. That's 2,000. That's pretty good. So then let's get this into orbit. So we need a Rocket Max one. We need, say, a big orange tank. If I were to throw a skipper on there, what are we looking at for thrust weight? Oh, that's too little. So we're going to need a lot more oomph. We can put a mainsail on there. That's lots of thrust to weight, which means we can probably put another half-size tank on here. This doesn't help delta V as much as you'd think, but yeah, it's still a lot. I don't think I want to make this anymore. At 4,400 delta V, we can get this into orbit at this point pretty comfortably. but I think we need a bit more. Now, we still have tons of thrust to weight, which means I don't necessarily need to set more engines on here. What I'm going to try is a side stack here that is... Well, I'm sure a couple of orange tanks would be too heavy. Yeah, drops us below 1. So instead, let's do something with these, like, FL800 tanks. Like that, and bring this up a little bit higher, like this. And then we can make it look all cool, maybe, with the Advanced Nose Cone B. And like that. So now our thrust to weight is 1.33, which is pretty good. And what would this do for our actual delta V at this point? 5,100. Yeah, that's not really enough. So I mean, what's still nice about this is it makes it pretty cheap. Right? It's really inexpensive because we're not having to spend another engine. But I think we are going to have to couple this with a more typical other booster stage for some asparagusing. This will be the outside asparagus. I mean, maybe we could just do some SRBs, which again are remarkably cheap. Because I'm going to want what? Like about 6,000, probably about 6,500 or 7,000 Delta V to feel comfortable because of the rendezvous planning. Yeah, let's go ahead and do a more conventional other thing, because we can't just add more gas tanks, because it won't be, we won't have the thrust to weight. But if I do this with some skipper engines, like that, make sure they all go at the same time. Alright, plenty of thrust to weight now, which is alright. We're going to make sure to get, just a regular nose cone. We're not going to have a fuel-filled one, that's going to be okay. And the fuel lines are going to go from these extra little fuel boosters to there. Yeah, probably. It's making it 70,000 to send this mission, though. I would like it to be cheaper, to be honest. Oh, we also need... There we go. Nose cone up there. This will need some strutting as well. I would like it to be cheaper. 70k is a lot to just refuel some stuff, but there's a lot of fuel in here. If we look here, yeah, so this is 800 liters of fuel. I think our lander takes somewhere around, all in all, like fuel plus oxidizer, somewhere around 500 or so. So this is going to be enough to basically run 2 missions. Yeah, actually, because it's 800 per, so this is 600 total liters of fuel in here. So I think our lander, I think would run 2 landing missions. Which isn't bad, I suppose, maybe at 71. See, they all light, then you pop off. Oh, this is not sorted correctly. You pop off first because you're the outside, and then you pop off. Now we're talking about 6,300 Delta V. With the thrust to weight the way this is, we could actually throw a little bit more fuel on the outside. Because engines on the outside doesn't help. Just gives you more thrust to weight, but actually hurts your Delta V some more. And actually, this middle stage is, like, still has tons of thrust left. We could have actually had 2 oranges in the middle, though I'm not sure that's a win. What do we think here? Yeah, definitely. Well, and you know what? 6,500 might be fine, because we have to remember. So 6,500 is about 4,500 to get into orbit, about 1,000-ish to leave orbit to go to the moon, and less than that to enter lunar orbit. But we do have the upper stage. So if I were to go at this point and remove this decoupler, what we actually have is 10,000 Delta V. Of course, a lot of that I would like to save for delivery, but this will get there. It might use a little bit of fuel from the top tank, but it will get there. In fact, maybe this is too much. I don't know. Well, better overkill than underkill. If it turns out to be way overkill, then we can re-engineer. If it turns out the same thing if it's underkill. If we end up using too much of what's supposed to be our final fuel, then we can redesign it at that juncture. I'm going to strut that. I think I'm going to strut the top of these side engines as well, because that's going to be a lot of juice. And actually, this will avoid a little bit of wobble as well if we do something like this. So let's call this the Station Refueler 1. And actually, it might not dock with the station to start off with. What it's probably going to do is dock with our lunar lander first, which is in a very eccentric orbit. I should have just left it in the low orbit and called it good, but, well, it is what it is. I mean, this looks cool, right? Nothing's going to hit at the bottom. We don't need fins. We don't need anything like that. We do need to read a tip that just came in from Turge. Hey, do you need a decoupler for the top nose cone? No, because it is it's a docking clamp, which means I can undock it. I can undock from here, and that's going to be fine. The question will be, do these RCS work the way I hope? I don't know. Also, notice the entire design has 0 reaction wheels. Early on, it's going to be dependent on the gimbling from the engine, which is fine. And then later on, it's going to be dependent on the RCS. Well, I mean, unless the engine's burning, in which case the gimbling will take over, and that'll be okay. The nose won't come out? No. Here. Well, I mean, we'll test it on launch pad. We'll make sure. But yeah. No, it'll come off because it can just you can decouple. It'll drop off the nose cone and leave me with the decoupler. Never mind, Quill's a genius. Well, let's not go that far. I don't think fins are gonna help. It is a pretty long design, so maybe. I think when I take off, I can take off in a higher orbit. It's going to eat our DV a little bit, but it'll be quite safe. You know, the amount of gimbling from this is insane. All right, let's put some fins on there. People are concerned. I think I might be over paranoid, but who knows? God knows I've killed enough Kerbals that... So let's launch this. It's a little more expensive than I was generally hoping for, but we'll see. And I think this looks awesome. I mean, come on, this looks cool, right? All right, so all the engines are gonna launch at the bottom, then we're gonna drop the fuel tanks, then we're gonna drop these engines, then we're gonna decouple and I guess light the next stage at the same time. Same thing over here. Nothing else to do. We've got some solar panels, we've got some power, we've got an RCS fuel tank and some RCS things. We've got no reaction wheels, but it's an experiment. All right, let's do it. Lunch. All right. So, getting this to space is going to be really easy. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and use the ascent guidance, so that way I can read chat while we're doing it. So, I set a fairly conservative turn shape over here. This is going to go up more vertically and not and require a more intense circularization burn than if I did it manually, but that's okay. I don't trust the AI that much, so we're going to go with that. We don't have any specific time we have to aim for. We're launching east-wise. That's all okay. Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. Bump, bump, bump. Oh, I don't have little brackets to hold the ship up. That's going to be okay. This looks magnificent. Don't you think? I love how it always does the 90-degree rotation for some reason. It's the forced climb roll. It's like, well, I don't actually care about that roll, but it does look freaking badass when you do it. Looks great. So when we hit about 1 kilometer, it should start its gravity turn. Oh, we've actually used this already. I don't like that we're dropping those on top of the KSC. Oh, there we go, 100 meters per second. There's our gravity turn starting. So it took us longer to get up to speed than we wanted. If we do a redesign on this, I actually think a couple of solid rocket boosters would be good. Those don't add a lot of delta V, but they do give you a lot of early speed. They can help you hit that 100 meters per second a lot earlier and feel a lot safer. There we go. Fuel tanks exploded next to the launch pad. Hopefully it didn't break anyone. Hopefully no one was looking at the launch too close. We're approaching max Q at this point because we do have a thrust to weight ratio that's quite large. So that's actually, yeah, I was going to say it's going to start de-throttling because we do have the Q limited. Max Q is when you hit like the maximum sort of atmospheric pressure that you're willing to handle. All right, there's that gravity turn. It looks awesome! And no reaction wheels. It goes to show you the influence of gimbling. We do have the fins on there because people were concerned, and these do have the ability to tweak our aerodynamics, but I'm really sure that the fins were not needed. As long as your design is stable and not wobbly, and you've got powerful gimbling engines with a little bit of extra thrust to weight, you won't have any problems keeping yourself facing the right way. Assuming you don't go off prograde too much. That's going to be fine. So when we got a little bit higher, at that point I would normally drop the fairing, which in a sense this nose cone is a fairing. But in this case, I'm not going to do that because the decoupler doesn't actually like push things away very strong. It does a tiny bit, but it's but the docking ring, I should say. But whereas a decoupler actually just really ejects things with some force. Here what would probably happen, it'll let go of the decouple, but this thing will stay stuck to our ship, or worse, sort of like tumble along it. So I'm going to wait until we're in space to discard the nose cone. It means we're hauling weight up a little higher than we need to, because I'd be quite comfortable discarding my fairing around now, because there's clearly not really any atmospheric effect. But yeah. Not a fan of fins on rockets with proper gimbling engines. Just make sure the lower the gimbal, you get wobbly ship. Yeah, well, that's true too. And I almost never use fins with steering on them. Maybe a couple of tiny fins just to help it drag prograde, and that's about it. I don't know what's going on here. I guess we just stopped using the engines at this point. We could use the RCS to try to keep ourselves facing the right way here. We'll have to make sure that we don't use our RCS too much, which may have just happened there. Yeah, we're going to be fine. Turn off the RCS at this point. Do a little time warp to sort of freeze us in the right direction. Turn on the RCS again. There you go. It looks great. Real spaceships use a lot of RCS, almost exclusively, because reaction wheels suck in real life. They're super OP in Kerbal Space Program, whereas in real life, reaction wheels don't do much. At best, they sort of keep you pointing in the same direction. And that's about it. So we're approaching a circularization burn. We're about to hit our apoapsis. I guess I don't have my orbit info up here. Yeah, which are apoapsis. Notice when the engine is going, the RCS system doesn't do anything. Oh, I could have discarded my nose cone at this point, actually. Oops. The RCS system doesn't do anything because the gimbling from this engine is sufficient. And see, we've hauled these fins into space for nothing. Okay, we have an overkill of fuel, definitely. Yeah. Which is good! Better too much than too little. But the problem is I really won't be able to maneuver in moon or orbit to do the dockings with this bit on here. So there's a good chance some of the fuel in here will be wasted. And it has a real big knock-on effect. If I say took this tank and cut it in half, because there isn't one that's smaller than this, then everything else, the whole ship would be lighter, especially at the top, which would multiply our bang for their buck considerably. Considerably. All right, so we're now happily in orbit. Ooh, that was an interesting coloration for a second there. We're now happily in orbit. What we want to do is we want to make our way to the moon. Obviously, these types of encounters are incredibly easy to plan out. Oh, actually, that's coming up like right now. You know, the standard is you wait until you see the moon rise and then burn, which is effectively what this maneuver is going to do. I'm going to go and, I'm just going to do this for now with the maneuver, and then I'll fine-tune in my viewing. Actually, we have enough delta V to finish this maneuver as is. That's crazy! That's crazy. All right, lock yourself prograde. Using some RCS, which looks awesome. All right, I'm going to start our thrust just a little bit because we can help use it for gimbling. And then I'll go for the rest. Yeah, no, we're at the node. We haven't actually seen the moon rise yet. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we weren't that far off. That's fine. I'm actually going to kill the maneuver and just eyeball it from here. Getting the moon is easy. We could save a little bit of delta V, but who cares? It's just the moon. And there we go. So that's the sphere. And what we want to do is we want to focus the view on the moon. And we need to make sure that we're going to be orbiting the same way as the other ships. Now, here's what's annoying. Right now, based on how these are going, I want to come in on the north. We actually are really well aligned, because I should be able to come in on the north and do this. But I don't think this is how things are going to be facing the time I get there. So this is sort of like a 50-50 shot. If I decide, based on, okay, it's orbiting to the north, by the time I get to the moon, Are we going to be coming in the same way as these guys? I mean, maybe? I don't know. I don't know if I can trust that, or we might be ended up twisting the opposite way. Part of me wants to just split the odds, come in on a very, very high orbit on the equator, because higher up makes it less expensive to do your maneuvers, and then do a big normal burn at that point. And I think I'm going to do that, because I think there's inherently a lot less risk. Being so high up, the normal burn to change our inclination will actually be incredibly cheap. So yeah, I think we're going to do that. So I'm okay with where we are right now. Oh shit, turn off the RCS. God damn it. Okay, we didn't use that much, but that is actually incredibly annoying. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go for it like this. We'll split the difference. It'll be interesting to see when we get there how it'll feel that these are orbiting compared to my movement. Because this is where it is now. But if I'm wrong, unless I'm wrong, and I've never been wrong, this orbit that we see from the north here shouldn't twist around, right? It should still be going from this point of view, left, right. If we zoom out, so left, right, from the top. So it feels like as long as I encountered... You know what I'm saying? And then depending on where the moon ends up next launch, it's going to feel different and different and different. Yeah, so I think we're going to go with the safe route. That's going to be okay. Energy's good. By the way, do our solar panels not look awesome when deployed? Wow! And that's great. I may want to put them all a little closer to the middle ring. I think that might have looked even cooler, but it's not bad. Alright, so quick save. Time warp. Time warp more. And one more, it's fine. Okay. We're still in times 50, so we're going to kill that. And yeah, it is coming around the north part still. I mean, but the thing is, my north would have still been a little crossed. And again, it's possible that depending on how things moved, we may have been coming in from the wrong side or whatever. I think, regardless of how I come in on the moon, I think I would have wanted to be far away. I suppose what I could have done, if I trusted that we were coming in mostly this way from the north, which would have been mostly true. Can I do a maneuver from here, actually? Sort of-ish. Yeah, there's no way this is good. So we're just going to go and add a maneuver here to burn retrograde. I'm just using this for timing. I actually want to do the most minimal possible burn to keep a really big orbit around here. Although, technically, it would... No, I have to do this because then I have to line up, say, like in this direction to do the normal anti-normal burn. Yeah. Okay, that's going to be fine. So, mostly, it's going to be burning retrograde. I'm not turning on the RCS yet. Well, I guess I should turn on the RCS now and just manually point myself retrograde. Or point myself to the maneuver node. That'll be fine. So, linking up with our little ship here is going to be weird and tricksy. So, I'm just using monopropellant here. And I will use... Why are you still burning monopropellant? Oh, because you're on stability assist, right. I'm just going to line up properly as much as possible and just time warp. Shh. Bit of a trick, but that's okay. All right, quick save. And I'm going to say warp to next maneuver. Take a relay satellite with you and dump it in high orbit. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Although, I actually have a really cheap satellite design now, which I will load up in a moment to show you. You're pointing the right way. And this is not going to be that big of a burn. Well, we were going to have to stage partway through. I never got rid of my goddamn nose cone. Hold on. I've been hauling out some extra weight. Decouple node. Goodbye, nose cone. See, it doesn't get exploded away, but it definitely detaches. Although now, when I burn retrograde, I'm going to slam right back into the nose cone. Good job, Quill. I'm going to just turn sideways slightly. Slightly off retrograde. And a very slow burn. Try not to smash my goddamn my solar panels. Okay. You point yourself at retrograde again.